calling Rob Hargrove with Chris and Aldo. I'm on hold right now while Chris is cycling him in. We are sitting at the Wristen 11. Hawk just talked to the workers, and they told him what?
That they're going to cut the cellar off at ground level, and then they're going to excavate to try to find a cut-off piece of casing.
Rob?
Yes.
Hey, man, my name's Chris Levin. I'm a lawyer in Houston. I got two other lawyers on the line with me. I am representing the Watt interests in this litigation that we got going on in Crane County. I got Sarah Stogner.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi.
And I'm sorry, Aldo, this happened really fast. It's Aldo Dyer here, right?
I'm here.
Okay, and so, Rob, I'm calling you. I know this is a bit out of left field. I'm sitting in my office in Houston. I'm sure sitting in your office in Austin, and I'm talking to at least Sarah, who is on site, who is telling me that she is watching some violations of the excavation protocol occur. We thought the best call would be to you before we have to file something with the court.
Sure.
I think they're working on the Wristen 11, and as I understand it, so far they have cut off a piece of the casing, welded on another piece. I think the piece they cut off is missing. They're cutting and manipulating on the weld bore, and my understanding is this violates the protocols in place. So I think the easiest thing to do is maybe like have a stand down before everyone gets on the same page, or to let everyone get on the same page about what's going to happen and when. I mean, our concern obviously is this spoliation issue where, you know, this might be the information we're looking for, the evidence we're looking for to show leaking or, you know, issues with the casing, and it's walking off the property. I know people's minds tend to race to, directly to the worst possible scenario of someone being nefarious. Sometimes that's the case, sometimes it's not. But I think, like, easiest thing to do is probably have everyone stand down so we can make sure everyone's comfortable with what's happening, such that we don't have to go bother a judge. But obviously you were our first phone call. We want to address it with you first.
No, thank you very much. What's going on is being done at the express instruction and direction of the Railroad Commission. They are requiring Walsh Watts to re-enter the 11. And we sent around a protocol last week about what we're doing. And so for that's why it doesn't fall under the protocol order.
No, Rob.
Now, as to preserving I don't know I'm not out there, obviously. If you want me to ask that they preserve anything they cut off of the well bore, I can certainly make that request.
Rob,
that would be like so.
The only notice that I got was that you guys were going to prepare cellars.
No, there's a follow-up, too. The cellars had to be prepared so they can go in and try to replug the 11.
Right. What are you guys going to do about, what are they going to do about this other well bore that's 4 feet from the 11? They just covered it up and are ignoring it. But it's actively leaking.
Listen, let's stay on the issue on the Wristen 11. Yeah, let me
the Wristen 11, the Railroad Commission District Office has told us to go in and reset the surface plug as a result of a complaint filed by your client. And we have to do it, and we have to do it now. And so there's a specific carve-out in the protocol order for this, but we gave you notice just so that, frankly, this wouldn't happen. But that's what's going on.
So, Rob, this is Aldo. I'm looking at the second amended protocol, and it says that the protocol doesn't impede operations, required, authorized, or ordered by the Railroad Commission, but it doesn't say that it doesn't apply to them. I see. Obviously, a well replugging operation necessarily involves, which is exactly what's going on, right? Excavation, excavating the well, re-entering it, and you got to cut the casing off and all that. Well, all of these are things activities that are listed as being covered by the protocol. So the way I'm reading this, the protocol applies to these activities, even though they may also be authorized by the Railroad Commission. And when you say ordered, Walsh and Watts just filed a W3A, or is there an order separate and apart from that from the commission?
Neither. There was no W3A filed because, again, it's an unusual situation because it's a replugging. If you look at what Jacob Davidson emailed you on Thursday,
Not to me.
there was all right, Mr. Levitt's on it, Ms. Sogner's on it. Let's see here. And I'm sorry, who am I talking to now? I'm sorry.
Aldo Dyer.
I'm sorry, what?
Aldo Dyer.
Aldo Dyer, okay. Yeah, so that's the letter that we sent the Railroad Commission saying what we proposed to do, and a few days later they told us to go ahead and do it.
Okay. Did you sent that to Chris and Sarah? Could one of y'all send that to me, please?
I just went and found it.
Email address. I can forward it along right now.
It was sent Thursday at 1:13. I didn't see it.
Okay, Sarah, can you forward it to me?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, I got it. Okay, thank you.
And so I don't know if they're still doing prep for the replugging or if the replugging crew has already gotten out there. I just don't know.
No,
That's what's going on.
what I'm concerned about is that you're rigging up on the Wristen 11 that has a mystery wellbore next to it flowing. It's flowing outside of the surface casing in both wells, and you're about to pump cement that's going to once again cover up what's happening, and then we're not going to be able to get back into it, log it, or do anything to prove what we need to prove on the subsurface condition of these wells. It's the same thing I've been talking to you about, Rob Hargrove, personally for 2 years that you've known about. And I've asked you repeatedly to come out here and look at these problems, and you have refused. And now you're knowingly helping your client spoliate evidence again.
Well, we'll just disagree about that, Sarah.
Okay.
What we were doing is what we were being required to do by the Railroad Commission because of complaints that you filed.
Well,
So,
you were ordered to do that months ago.
It is not the protocol order. Let's get back to this because I think it is important. I don't have the second amended on my screen at this moment, but I was at the hearing where the protocol order was entered, and it was made pretty clear, very clear, that it did not apply to things that operators with active operations had to do at the behest of the Railroad Commission. And so if we have a difference about how that's interpreted, we could flesh that out. But that was the whole point of that language. Because it is a situation where my folks are they're differently situated than some of the other defendants who don't have operations out there.
Wasn't Walsh and Watts ordered to replug these wells before suit was ever filed, and they haven't done it for months?
Okay, guys, hey, before we get on to something else, let us, Rob, circle back up and because this is obviously you've given us some info we need to digest, and to the extent necessary, we'll call you back. Okay?
Yep, that sounds fine. I'll be here all day.
Wait, Chris, can I sure. Throw one thing out?
Yeah.
So, Rob, you are not going to recommend to your client to put a hold on this while we all figure it out? That's how
No, I'm going to call them right now and see if anything that's removed can be set aside. To me, I understand. I don't know technically what that entails. It may be. I think on this one it won't be much. So let me call and check on that. But no, the problem is what Sarah just said is the Railroad Commission has been wanting us to do this for quite some time, and they have recently told us, do it now or we're going to file an enforcement proceeding. So I understand, so we're being told dramatically different things from y'all and from the commission. But we can't, so that's the pickle that Walsh Watts is in. And Sarah's right that they told us to do this. I don't remember specifically when. She knows. But certainly it could have been prior to the filing of the lawsuit. And we have been trying to figure out the right way to do it. We've been trying to work on it. And they have, again, recently told us, you got to do it now, quit doing it. So that's what we're doing. And they've been very clear that they want it done. So that's why I can't tell my client to ignore what the commission's telling them to do.
We're not asking you to ignore what the commission's telling you to do. We're asking you to ask them to take a pause for 24 hours so that we can specifically request, like, this well needs to be logged. A surface plug and I'm sorry, but the Railroad Commission telling you to set a surface plug when we all have evidence that much more is needed is you have an obligation to inform the Railroad Commission that other things need to be performed so that you're not violating Railroad Commission regulations, because what you're about to do isn't going to save or protect our fresh water. It's going to further contaminate our fresh water and prevent us from logging and getting the evidence needed to show what the actual condition of the wellbore is subsurface. And so I'm not trying to keep you from replugging these wells. On the contrary, I've been trying to get your client to properly plug these wells for 2 years. They did a bad job in 2021. None of those wells are effectively plugged. And so, yes, I want the wells properly plugged, but dumping cement and hiding evidence isn't properly plugging them, even if the Railroad Commission is satisfied with that. That's my position. I just want to make sure that's clear.
Yeah, you have made your position clear, Sarah.
All right.
Thanks, Rob.
I'm sorry, go ahead. Aldo, did you have anything else?
No, I was just saying thank you.
All right, guys. Well, Rob, I appreciate the time. Let us circle back, and we'll be back in touch with you, okay?
That sounds great. Thanks.
Thanks, Jacob and Rob, for taking a few minutes. So I think the purpose of this call is for me is to understand sort of the chronology of what's occurred with the Wristen number 11 at the Railroad Commission.
Yeah.
And let me just lay it out for you from my understanding, and then you can tell me where I'm right or wrong. So prior to the litigation being filed, that there was a complaint made by Antina to the Railroad Commission relating to the 11, 15, and 16. And that the commission has, directed Walsh and Watts to perform some replugging operations on those wells. I think at first told Walsh and Watts that it would be observing the number 11, but at some point they ordered or directed Walsh and Watts to re-enter the well. I understand that there's some sort of threatened enforcement action by the Railroad Commission, which is why Walsh and Watts saying that time is of the essence for them to plug this well. So those are the facts I understand them, just in terms of the Railroad Commission interaction with the parties.
I mean, yeah, that's largely right. The commission they first told us that they thought these 3 wells needed to be re-entered sometime in the fall. I think it was probably around Thanksgiving. But at any rate, towards the end of 2022, we've been kind of going back and forth about it, trying to sort out specifically what to do. And apparently we took too long, because on March 21st, the district office recommended that Austin get involved and actually initiate an enforcement action. And so Walsh and Watts has decided to go ahead and replug the wells rather than ask for a hearing and take any of that up. And so that's, they told us that they wanted a work plan by, I guess, this not this most recent Friday, but the one before that, which would have been the 14th. And so what Jacob forwarded y'all last week was what we sent the Railroad Commission that Friday, the 14th. And then last week they told us to go ahead and start doing those operations and do them promptly. And so that is where how we ended up where we are today.
Okay, so there's no pending enforcement action. Like, there's no docket assigned. That's correct.
I don't know the answer to the first question. There's not a docket assigned that I'm aware of, but on March 21st, the district office did send all this to Clay Whittle and say it's recommended legal enforcement action be scheduled. And so I'm not aware of a docket number, but we were told in no uncertain terms to get on it and get on it fast.
Okay, so y'all submitted a work plan to the commission for approval, and the commission approved that work plan?
Yeah, it's exactly what Jacob forwarded to you, and I just re-forwarded to you, Ryan, a second ago. They told us that because it's a replug, they did not want us to submit a new W3A, but they did want a work plan, which is what you should have in your inbox now.
Okay.
I think it's the same thing I sent you earlier, Ryan.
All right. Well, here's our position is that, I know some of these things occurred prior to the litigation. This work plan and everything has now occurred after the sampling protocol. I think we need to work that out, how this is all going to play out in terms, maybe over the next week. Is that if y'all don't plan to sample as extensively as Antina does, I think that we're at least afforded that opportunity. I think that's kind of the bottom line here.
Yeah, I mean, our position is that the work that's being done is not governed by the protocol because it's being done at the instruction of the Railroad Commission District Office. And
Ryan, let me add, on top of that, it's also not permitted activity because it's not for the purpose of discovering anything for the purpose of the lawsuit. I mean, you were in that hearing that we had this hashed out with the judge and before the amended protocol was entered, and I think we were all on the same page. When the commission orders an operator to, who's out there under a lease to do something, then they've got a right to do it. And we made sure that was, that was not going to be governed by a sampling protocol, and that's where we are, is conducting operations that are ordered by the commission.
So I was definitely in the hearing. You're right, Jacob. But there was a couple of different amendments or versions of it that came out. The one thing that I don't see in the protocol is that there's some exception for Railroad Commission activities. I don't think that we just...
It's in that very first paragraph.
Yeah, it says, I can chime in here. I got it in front of me. It says, this protocol does not impede operations required, authorized, or ordered by the Railroad Commission of Texas. I mean, so basically we're talking about everything out there is authorized by the commission. I mean, the drilling of wells, the plugging of wells, everything.
That's exactly right. If we're going to drill a well, that's not subject to the protocol.
Well, and Jacob is right again. And I would, and that's exactly where I was going with this. Is that I don't think that there's an exception to the protocol. I don't think that we're going to stand in your way, but we certainly want to be afforded the opportunity to do the testing that we need to do. Right? I think that was. I think
the protocol allows you to conduct testing through the means of the protocol or otherwise through a request, but that doesn't, I don't see anything in that provides or requires us to do anything other than what we're doing, which is complying with the instructions of the commission.
Well, can we agree to a date that we can go out there before y'all start your operations?
What do you mean go out there, Ryan?
For us to examine the well for ourselves.
No, you've already done that, and we've given you notice, and we're going to move ahead. I think you've examined this well.
We need the opportunity to log it. So if you're going to rig up on it, then we need the chance to fully log it. And on the Wristen 11, have you guys notified the Railroad Commission that there's a mystery wellbore actively leaking 4 feet from what's been identified as the Wristen 11? Like, you can't use the Railroad Commission's order to place a surface plug and not tell the Railroad Commission the other circumstances, like the actively bubbling water in the surface casing, and then say, well, we're just complying with we didn't tell the Railroad Commission everything that was going on, but we're just complying with the Railroad Commission order to properly plug this well that the Railroad Commission didn't start inspecting or looking at until we filed a complaint. And so we filed an administrative complaint that's taken too long. We filed litigation, and now you're trying to use the administrative process to prevent yourselves or prevent us from getting evidence that's admissible and relevant and necessary for the underlying civil litigation.
So, guys, this is Brian. Just let's back up there. Were y'all aware of this other wellbore right next to the Wristen 11?
I'm aware of claims made by the plaintiffs that there's another wellbore. We have no record of it. I don't know that it's not on any assignment to Walsh and Watts, and I know nothing else about it other than there's a claim made that there's another wellbore.
So, and I've only seen pictures, Jacob, but the pictures show that there's another wellbore directly adjacent to the number 11. I am told that it is also actively leaking. I'm also told that it was uncovered and then that Walsh and Watts did not address it, but otherwise just covered it up with dirt. I think it was last Friday. Again, that's just my understanding. But so that issue is percolating out there as it relates to the number 11. But yeah, Antina just wants an opportunity to fully log the well before any other operations are conducted by Walsh and Watts as directed by the commission. We do not want to impeach you, but we do not think that our rights are somehow waived that we don't get to log that well because we agreed to not stand Walsh and Watts' way to do those things. But we do get to test that well, and we do get to log it. And we'll work with y'all within like whatever time frame that you want to that makes sense for Walsh and Watts so as to avoid an enforcement action. But we need that opportunity.
Ryan, maybe I'm ignorant here, but I'm not sure what. I mean, what we've been ordered to re-enter a wellbore, we're going to do within that procedure. I don't think we're in the 11. I don't have any idea what you're talking about logging, but I'm not aware of anything that would give you the right to log the well.
Well, and Jacob, I don't want to play wordsmith here, but I don't think that y'all been ordered to do anything by the commission. I think the commission and y'all and Walsh have been working together to formulate a plan. Fine. Now there's some threatened enforcement action. There's no docket assigned. There's certainly no order out there in the universe telling Walsh wants to do any of this. I think there may be an agreement or an implied agreement.
There's no agreement and there's not. In a technical sense, there is no final order after a hearing in the hearings division, but we have absolutely been required to do this, and we were told to do it yesterday. And so, I don't think, the Walsh and Watts has decided not to challenge that requirement by requiring a hearing because, we're going to just do what the commission has told us to do. But this is not some sort of amorphous agreement. This is them telling us to do it right now. So, I mean, our position,
understood.
It plainly falls within the last sentence of the first paragraph of the amended sampling protocol. And the commission has wanted to know with specificity and detail what we're going to do, which we've told them. And so, I don't even know specifically what y'all are even talking about.
I think we can tell you exactly what we'd like to do within the next hour.
I can tell you right now.
Up here. If you want to, my folks have contractors on location. We're carrying out that work, as scheduled. there's something you want to propose, we will forward it to our clients and consider it.
No, I just need to know when you're going to rig up on the wells, because I need to be able to schedule a USIT, a caliper log, a noise and temp log, and a cement bond log.
So backing up here, granted, I was not at the hearing. I was in the background of that. But I don't see anything in the second amended protocol that accepts any operation authorized by the Railroad Commission from the protocol. It says it doesn't impede it. Does it say it doesn't?
Although that's fine, but you got to start higher than that. Look at how it's defined as a permitted activity. The protocol governs permitted, capital P, permitted, capital A activities.
I see that. Yeah, and then
and what we're doing is not what we're doing is not a permitted activity.
However, if you go down to subsection 2, it describes a whole lot of activities that are kind of basically described.
Those things in paragraph 2 all are triggered by whether or not it's a permitted activity.
Okay, so if pumping cement down a well at issue in this litigation that prevents us from ever logging it, how is that not governed by this protocol if it's going to prohibit us from getting the evidence that we need?
Because it's required by the Railroad Commission. We're not doing this because we want to. We're doing this because we're being made to.
We're not trying to keep you from doing anything that the Railroad Commission has ordered you to do. We just need to have access to that well bore while you've got access to that well bore so that we can log it. Because I know you're not going to log it because you didn't log any of these, and that's why they're still leaking.
Are you proposing to send out your own rig? I mean, again.
We're not going to give access to third parties to our rig when we're carrying out operations that we're required to carry out. We're not going to do that.
Hold on, guys. This is Ryan again. Let's get back on track here. Jacob, are you still willing to go back to Walsh and Watts with the things that we'd like to do today to see if they allow us to do it before any operations go forward?
No, I mean we're carrying out operations out there right now, Ryan. I'm not going to. No.
That's okay.
No.
Okay, fine. You keep doing what you're doing. I'm watching them right now. I canceled my trip because you guys happened to schedule this during the 2 weeks that I said that I was going to be out of town. So I've canceled my trip. I'm here. Let's work together so that we have the opportunity to get the evidence that we need. So will you at least go back to your client and see if they will work with us to coordinate the logging that needs to be done and tell me when a rig will be out here so that I can have people watching it and taking notes?
I don't understand what it is that you're proposing to do. So if you want to put a proposal in writing as far as what you're requesting, then that, I am happy to pass that on. We have told you that we're going to commence operations and continue those operations. So I don't understand what the request there is.
So going forward, is there any appetite from Walsh and Watts to agree to some kind of protocol that applies to any operation, no matter what everyone thinks the reason for it is? Just anything going on the property, notice, information sharing, all that.
No. I mean, we're out there. We've got producing oil and gas wells that are out there being operated on a daily basis.
And so right, and I don't mean day-to-day production operations, but obviously this is bleeding over into a lot of the things that are at issue here. I think that would go a long way towards avoiding problems now and in the future. Everybody still there?
Yeah, we're still here.
Yeah. And then at the end of the day, guys, I mean, there's still this. I'd like to resolve this dispute for several reasons. One of which is that we do have the well directly adjacent to this, so it's not like we're not going to ever revisit this well again. There's an issue. There's that lingering issue. It's well, we're right next to it. And I understand if you don't have any knowledge of it, you don't understand the allegations, but it's not like we're going to cover up this location and be done with it. We have to revisit it.
Yeah, there's no proposal or plan to do anything with respect to that other apparent wellbore or whatever it is. I mean, we don't know anything about it. We're not re-entering it, for goodness sakes.
Right, but you've covered it up. So now that actively leaking oil is just covered up 8 feet below the ground.
Well, we had to do that so that we could go on the 11 as required.
Okay, but just to be very clear with everyone said, and Jacob, maybe you've already answered this, but if we can get you something in writing within the hour of what we'd like to do on the number 11 in terms of logging activities, are y'all willing to pass that? Or are you willing to just delay operations for the time being so that you can pass that along to your client for their consideration?
I'm willing to pass on any request you make, Ryan. I am not willing to delay operations.
Okay.
And I don't see from a practical standpoint how you're going to bring a contractor out and conduct some operation on a rig that my client has contracted to carry out its required operation.
All right. Well, Sarah, Aldo, do y'all have anything else?
Not at this time.
Nope. My mom told me if I don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all.
Jacob, Rob, thank you for hopping on short notice. We appreciate it. We'll just proceed accordingly.
Sounds good.
Thanks, Joe.
Okay.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank y'all.